Welcome to Studio Movie Recap. Ready for another quick rundown of an awesome movie? Let's dive right in, and if you enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe for more recaps. The story opens with a glimpse into the life of a teenage boy named Brian, a 16-year-old with a long-standing ambition to become a basketball player. He had tirelessly worked toward joining his school's team, the Eagles, but ultimately, he didn't make the cut. Instead, he was assigned the less glamorous role of managing the team's water bottles during games. One day, Brian was spectating his favorite player, Kevin, in action. Kevin kept scoring one flawless basket after another, amassing points for his team. Watching this, Brian felt inspired and made a personal vow to become a top-notch player like Kevin. Motivated, Brian started practicing tirelessly, attempting to shoot baskets repeatedly, but he often ended up falling rather clumsily each time. On the other hand, as Kevin was exiting the stadium post-match, reporters and fans encircled him, eager for an interview. His agent, Alan, skillfully navigated him through the throng. The following day, Brian was chatting with his best friend, Mitch, at school when he noticed a new girl, Isabel, walking by. The instant he saw her, Brian felt his heart race, and he couldn't help but smile to himself. Isabel flashed him a smile back, making him feel even more exhilarated. Later, at lunch, he was still gazing at Isabel when Mitch warned him not to get too caught up with her, reminding him that most of the school considered him a loser. But Brian reasoned that Isabel was new and didn't know about his reputation, so he made it his mission to speak with her soon. In a twist of bad luck, a prankster named Connor played a clip on the cafeteria's TV, showing a video of Brian attempting a high jump, only to end up tangled in the basketball hoop net. The entire cafeteria erupted in laughter, leaving Brian feeling mortified as he quietly exited, with Isabel looking at him sympathetically. That evening, as Brian was sitting at home, his dad handed him a pair of tickets to an upcoming basketball game. Overjoyed, Brian danced around in excitement. He eagerly attended the game with his father, thrilled to see Kevin showcase his incredible skills. During the halftime break, the announcer announced a raffle where one lucky spectator would have the chance to take a shot and potentially win a $20,000 prize. Surprisingly, Brian's father's ticket was called, but in a show of classic fatherly support, he handed the opportunity over to Brian. Brian stepped onto the court, filled with a mixture of excitement and nerves. The host reiterated that making the shot would mean winning the $20,000 reward. Brian noticed Connor in the crowd, readying his camera to capture the moment, probably hoping for another blunder. Brian aimed and threw the ball, but it missed the mark entirely, hitting the team's mascot by accident. Embarrassed, he started to walk off, but just then, he crossed paths with Kevin. The star player offered words of encouragement and even autographed a basketball for Brian. Brian couldn't believe his luck. He admired Kevin so much that he impulsively wished he had Kevin's talent. Smiling, Kevin told him that hard work could triumph over talent any day. Then, handing him the ball, an unexplainable surge of energy flowed from it into Brian. The following morning, Brian woke to the news on the radio that Kevin had unexpectedly played terribly after the break in last night's game, which ultimately led to his team's defeat. Disheartened by the news, Brian went about his day, heading to school. That evening, Brian and Mitch visited a local fair, where they spotted Connor and Isabel. Connor was attempting to win Isabel a large teddy bear by shooting balls into a carnival hoop, but despite repeated tries, he failed to score. Observing this, Brian and Mitch couldn't contain their laughter, which irked Connor. In a moment of challenge, Connor handed the ball to Brian, daring him to take a shot. To his surprise, Brian scored with ease. Everyone around was amazed, and they assumed it was beginner's luck, but Brian continued to make each shot flawlessly, stunning the crowd. Eventually, Brian won the teddy bear and offered it to Isabel, who was impressed. They shook hands and went off to explore the fair together. Meanwhile, Kevin was back at practice, but he was noticeably struggling, failing to make shots he'd usually sink effortlessly. This slump left both him and Alan, his agent, worried. Despite Alan's reassurance that everyone has bad days, Kevin couldn't shake his frustration. Back at home, Brian started practicing on his own and noticed that his basketball skills seemed to have inexplicably improved overnight. Energized, he wore a basketball jersey to school the next day and confidently approached the court. The coach, noticing him, was initially confused, reminding Brian that he hadn't made the team. But after Brian's relentless pleading, the coach agreed to give him a chance to prove himself. The coach pitted him against Connor, the team's captain, in a shootout. Brian's performance astounded everyone, including the coach, as he made each shot look effortless, even outscoring the coach himself. Impressed by his sudden prowess, the coach officially welcomed Brian onto the team. In the following weeks, Brian excelled in multiple games, leading his team to victory after victory. His newfound skills made him a popular figure at school, with people eager to befriend him. His relationship with Isabel deepened, and the two fell for each other. However, on the flip side, Kevin's game continued to deteriorate, and the media heavily criticized him, tarnishing his reputation. Alan tried various ways to lift Kevin's spirits, even reaching out to Kevin's mother, but nothing seemed to work. During a commercial shoot for basketball shoes, Kevin struggled to keep control of the ball, and after multiple failed takes, he was eventually removed from the ad. One evening, Alan was channel surfing to escape Kevin's public criticism and happened upon news about Brian's rising fame in the junior basketball circuit, with commentators dubbing him the next Kevin Durant. Alan was struck by the similarity in Brian's playing style and Kevin's, prompting him to suspect that some sort of exchange in abilities might have occurred between them. Alan shared his theory with Kevin, who was skeptical and dismissed it as absurd. Determined to investigate, Alan brought Kevin to Brian's school the next day, introducing them. In an attempt to observe any unusual behavior, Alan insisted they spend the day together. Although they got along and even shared a meal, the interaction failed to reverse the skill swap, leaving Alan frustrated. As Brian's ego grew, he began to hog the ball during games, refusing to pass to his teammates. Although they continued to win, his friends grew resentful since basketball was meant to be a team effort. Meanwhile, Kevin's slump continued, culminating in another disastrous performance where he failed to score a single point, causing the spectators and media to ridicule him. Brian threw a victory party, reveling in his newfound popularity. However, Isabel was disillusioned with this change in him. She missed the sweet, humble boy he used to be and tried to speak to him privately, but he brushed her off to hang out with his new friends. Frustrated, Isabel left the party. Soon, Alan arrived at the celebration, confronting Brian about the skill swap. Brian brushed it off, denying that he had any obligation to return Kevin's abilities. Alan, disappointed, cautioned him about the dangers of misusing someone else's hard-earned skills, urging him to reconsider. The next day, Brian's coach gathered the Eagles team, announcing that they were one game away from the championship. As Brian biked home, he saw a poster of Kevin and felt a pang of guilt for Kevin's recent struggles. He finally decided to return Kevin's talent and called Alan to tell him so. They met up with Kevin, who, though skeptical, agreed to give it a try. They returned to the court and went through the exact sequence that had first caused the swap, holding the ball together as they made their wish. To their relief, a surge of energy transferred from Brian back to Kevin, signaling the exchange was successful. Kevin's game immediately improved, and he led his team to a resounding victory in his next match. The following day was the Eagles' final game. Although Brian was back to his original skill level, he remembered Kevin's advice about hard work and rallied his team, strategizing to maximize everyone's strengths. The game came down to the final seconds, and with his teammates' support, Brian scored the winning shot, securing the championship. In the end, Brian's friends lifted him onto their shoulders in celebration, and Kevin bid him farewell, leaving Brian with the confidence that he'd earned his own achievements through perseverance and teamwork.